The latest. Thank you for your love and support. According to a Togolese professor, Robert Dussa, on the Global Security Forum that was held in Doha, that the West always try to dictate to the African as to what to do. They are trying to control us. When a Westerner said they were humiliated by Africa, that France was kicked out in 2 African places. France, 2 military bases were kicked out in Africa, and so for that matter, this is a humiliation. And he was trying to school him, make him to understand that Africa has had enough of the West. That where Africa has gotten to, the West have to understand that Africa is no longer the young child that they used to know. Africa has grown, and that is why the West have to change the approach that they are using on Africa. That when they come to Africa, they try to dictate to us, tell you what to do. You have to do this, commanding us around as if we are children, people who do not know their left from right. That is no longer the Africa they used to know. And that these schools that are coming up in Africa, the West have to bear in mind that we are tired of the kind of rule they've given to us. Things that are only setting the African backwards is what we do. They try to control us even from afar. Sit wherever they are in the West and try to command us. Tell we the Africans what to do. That no, this is now a new era of Africa. So the Sahel region, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, that they have to wash their hands of these 3 nations and leave the Sahel alone, because Africa is tired. We have been frustrated by the West for a very long time, and now we also want to have some air to breathe. We want to take control over our resources. We have grown. Africa is not their playground. We are not their children or their property that they can just sit there and decide what we should do, commanding us. You, the Burkinabés, do this, obey these rules. These are the regulations. If you don't do this, we'll not do that. If you don't do this, we'll do this to you. That thing must stop. They have to understand that we are grown, so they have to stop certain things that they are doing to the African, as if we don't know anything about anything, and they are there to guide us in everything that we are to do. That was that. That the world has changed, and the West must understand that, and also change the way they do things, and come back to face Africa with better approach, like what Russia is doing and China is doing. They are not dictating to we the Africans. Even when we have our natural resources and they come, how can you strike a deal with us? Out of 100, you are giving us 3%, 5%, and you keep the majority of it. Africa is a new Africa, a new era, and we need new leaders, new leadership, people that will take control over our resources. That everything of the West is fake. So if they are thinking that we kicking them out of our land is a humiliation to them, then they have to come back again, because we can't allow them to be on the African soil telling us what to do, making things unbearable for us, and they think that we would not, at least for a time in life, change, and also try to let them understand that we are tired and want to take things into our own hands. So they should have to rethink of seeing us kicking their troops out of Africa as a humiliation. In natural sense, Africa is only trying to regain its sovereignty and take control over their natural resources. And this is wonderful. Everything you are doing to us, we have the right to live, to take control of our natural resources, to get the life that we deserve. How can people be having uranium yet they are sleeping in darkness? And you that don't have it, you have light 24/7. You don't even know what they call power outage. And you expect us to be happy, to keep quiet and keep watching you? Let's listen to Professor Robert Dussa himself elaborate more on this issue. So that's the latest around the world, in Africa, West Africa, and in Togo.
The role of African continent right now is very important. That's why we need to know what is happening really in African continent, and also we need to listen to the African people and African leaders. So I can say African continent is one of the continents what we can have a specific vision for the peace in the world.
Yeah. But as you just said there, for all the importance, let's be frank, there have been some setbacks. And I'm not talking about the setbacks that have been discussed earlier today of coups and governance. I'm talking about setbacks in the interests of some of Africa's traditional partners. I'm an American. We've just had the humiliation of being asked to leave 2 bases in Niger. And we've had special operations forces withdrawn temporarily, officially, from Chad. And this follows upon, of course, France's much more humiliating expulsion from a number of African countries. Why are these setbacks? I think getting into the geopolitics, other actors, both state and non-state, are beginning to play a role. What can you say about the choices that Africans have now?
You know, I think, please don't take the situation in African continent like humiliation. It's not humiliation. As I say, and the President Kagame says, the President of African Union Commission say, Mustafaki, we need to understand what is happening in Africa. It's not humiliation. But I think you as Western, I'm not defending, you know, the countries like coup d'etat countries in Africa or in the West African region. I'm not defending them. But as Western, please, you have to review your approach. Because sometimes, you know, it's like you stay in Washington, in Paris, in Brussels, maybe here in Doha, and you decide to the African leaders and African people. It's not correct. I think the first problem is here. The approach is like, you know, the situation in Africa right now is not the situation before the Second World War. Now we are 16 years after most of the African countries' independence. So the vision of African continent, the vision of the new leaders, what we have in Africa, is not the same. You know, we have a lot of frustration in African continent. You can just discuss with the young people in Africa. But when you come, you say, you know, I want to be frank with you. You say, okay, I'm US. I stay in Washington. Hey, you are Togolese, who you are? Okay, you have to. Do it, don't do it. I say, hey, why? I'm Togolese, I'm African. Why you stay in Paris? Why you stay in Washington, in Moscow, in Tehran, everywhere in the world, and you decide for my people, to decide for African people? The thing what we say right now, first, you have to listen to us. Before you decide, come discuss with the people to try to understand what the people need for themselves. Second, you need also to respect the African people. The approach is not a domination approach. Because, you know, now, when you see the African people, the African leaders, for them, it's like some people from Western, they have to dominate it. There is like a condescending, you know, attitude. Sometimes it's like arrogance. And the new leaders say, no, We don't need condescending attitude anymore. We don't need arrogance anymore. We don't need the paternalism anymore. We have a maturity, the political maturity after 16 years of our independence to decide for ourselves, to decide for our people. I think it's very important to take it in your mind.